everybody, I'm Miss Olivia. Welcome to Pajama Storytime. Are you in your pajamas? I am. I'm wearing a Winnie the Pooh sweatshirt. I have some fuzzy socks on. I have a blanket already. I'm all cozy. I brushed my teeth already. I've washed my face. I've put my hair up. Are you guys all ready for bed? Awesome! Maybe we should just skip Pajama Storytime. Maybe we should just go right to sleep. No? You guys want to hear a story? Okay. Well, I have some awesome things to show you that you can guess what our theme is going to be. Now, I already told you about my sweatshirt, but let's see some books. We have Return to the 100-Acre Wood. We have 3 Cheers for Pooh. We have The World of Pooh. We have The World of Christopher Robin. And we have Winnie the Pooh. And Now We Are 6. And I have some special guests. Who are my special guests? I have Tigger. I have Piglet. I have Eeyore. I have another Eeyore. And I have Pooh. And this Pooh is really special because this Pooh is as old as I am. I got him when I was very, very, very young. And I've had him ever since. And they're all going to join me for a story time. Can you guess what the theme is? No, the theme's not dinosaurs. Is the theme things you wear? No. The theme's Winnie the Pooh. That's right. It's Winnie the Pooh. All right. I have a very special edition of Winnie the Pooh. It is called The Complete Tales of Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne and Ernest H. Shepard. And I thought I would read a chapter of it before we go to sleep tonight. Now, I have a very favorite character in Winnie the Pooh, and you could probably guess who it is. It's Eeyore. I have many, many Eeyores. And this Eeyore is going to join us for a story time. Okay. So this chapter takes place in the book Winnie the Pooh. It's chapter 4, entitled In Which Eeyore Loses a Tail and Pooh Finds One. Okay. Are you all snuggled up? Okay, let's get started. Eeyore, are you ready? Is Eeyore ready? Eeyore's ready. Let's do it. The old gray donkey, Eeyore, stood by himself in a thistly corner of the forest, his front feet well apart, his head on one side, and thought about things. Sometimes he thought sadly to himself, why? And sometimes he thought, wherefore? And sometimes he thought, inasmuch as which? And sometimes he didn't quite know what he was thinking about. So when Winnie the Pooh came stumping along, Eeyore was very glad to be able to stop thinking for a little, in order to say, how do you do, in a gloomy manner to him. And how are you? Said Winnie the Pooh. Eeyore shook his head from side to side. Not very how, he said. I don't seem to have felt at all how for a long time. Dear, dear, said Pooh, I'm sorry about that. Let's have a look at you. So Eeyore stood there, gazing sadly at the ground, and Winnie the Pooh walked all around him once. Why, what's happened to your tail? He said in surprise. What has happened to it? Said Eeyore. It isn't there, said Pooh. Are you sure? Asked Eeyore. Well, either a tail is there or it isn't there. You can't make a mistake about it, and yours isn't there. Then what is? Said Eeyore. Nothing, said Pooh. Let's have a look, said Eeyore, and he turned slowly round to the place where his tail had been a little while ago, and then finding that he couldn't catch it up, he turned around the other way until he came back to where he was at first, and then he put his head down and looked between his front legs, and at last he said with a long, sad sigh, I believe you're right. Of course I'm right, said Pooh. That accounts for a good deal, said Eeyore gloomily. It explains everything. No wonder. You must have left it somewhere, said Winnie the Pooh. Somebody must have taken it, said Eeyore. How like them, he added after a long silence. Pooh felt that he ought to say something helpful about it, but didn't quite know what. So he decided to do something helpful instead. Eeyore, he said solemnly, I, Winnie the Pooh, will find your tail for you. Thank you, Pooh, answered Eeyore. You're a real friend, he said. Not like some, he said. So Winnie the Pooh went off to find Eeyore's tail. It was a fine spring morning in the forest as he started out. Little soft clouds played happily in a blue sky, skipping from time to time in front of the sun, as if they had come to put it out, and then sliding away suddenly so that the next might have his turn. Through them and between them the sun shone bravely, and a copse which had worn its furs all the year round seemed old and dowdy now beside the new green lace which the beeches had put on so presently. Through copse and spinney marched Bear, down open slopes of gorse and heather, over rocky beds of streams, up steep banks of sandstone into the heather again, and so at last, tired and hungry, to the 100-acre wood. For it was in the 100-acre wood that Owl lived. And if anyone knows anything about anything, said Bear to himself, it's Owl who knows something about something, he said. Or my name's not Winnie the Pooh, he said. Which it is, he added. So there you are. Owl lived at the Chestnuts, an old-world residence of great charm which had grander than anybody else's, or so seemed to Bear, because it had both a knocker and a bell pull. Underneath the knocker there was a notice which said, Please ring if an answer is required. But please was spelled P-L-E-S, and required was spelled R-E-Q-I-R-D. Underneath the bell pull, there was a notice which said, Please knock if an answer is not required. But knock was spelled C-N-O-K-E, and please was spelled P-L-E-Z. Here is a picture of Pooh at Owl's door with the bell pull and the knocker. These notices had been written by Christopher Robin, who was the only one in the forest who could spell. For Owl, wise though he was in many ways, able to read and write and spell his own name, which he spelled W-O-L. Is that right? That's not right, classic Owl. Yet somehow, Owl went all to pieces over delicate words like measles and buttered toast. Winnie the Pooh read the two notices very carefully, first from left to right, and afterwards, in case he had missed some of it, from right to left. Then, to make quite sure, he knocked and pulled the knocker, and he pulled and knocked the bell rope, and he called out in a very loud voice, Owl, I require an answer. It's Bear speaking. And the door opened, and Owl looked out. Hello, Pooh, he said. How's things? Terrible and sad, said Pooh, because Eeyore, who is a friend of mine, has lost his tail, and he's moping about it. So could you very kindly tell me how to find it for him? Well, said Owl, the customary procedure in such cases is as follows. What does crustimony precede cake mean? Said Pooh, for I am a bear of very little brain, and long words bother me so. It means things to do, said Owl. As long as it means that, I don't mind, said Pooh humbly. The thing to do is as follows. First, issue an reward. Then, just a moment, said Pooh, holding up his paw. What do we do to this? What were you saying? You sneezed just as you were going to tell me. I didn't sneeze, said Owl. Yes, you did, Owl, said Pooh. Excuse me, Pooh, I didn't. You can't sneeze without knowing it, said Owl. Well, you can't know it without something having been sneezed, said Pooh. What I said was, first issue a reward. You're doing it again, said Pooh sadly. A reward, said Owl very loudly. We write a notice to say that we will give a large something to anybody who finds Eeyore's tail. Ah, I see, said Pooh, nodding his head. Talking about large somethings, he went on dreamily. I generally have a small something about now, about this time in the morning. And he looked wistfully at the cupboard in the corner of Owl's parlor. Just a mouthful of condensed milk, or whatnot, with perhaps a lick of honey. Well then, said Owl, we write out this notice and we put it up all over the forest. A lick of honey, murmured Bear to himself. Or not, as the case may be. And he gave a deep sigh and tried very hard to listen to what Owl was saying. But Owl went on and on, using longer and longer words until at last he came back to where he started, and he explained that the person to write out this notice was Christopher Robin. It was he who wrote the ones on my front door for me. Did you see them, Pooh? Asked Owl. For some time now, Pooh had been saying yes and no in turn, and with his eyes shut to all that Owl was saying, and having said yes, yes last time, he said no, not at all this time, without really knowing what Owl was saying. Didn't you see them? Said Owl with a little surprise. Come and look at them now. So they went outside, and Pooh looked at the knocker and the notice below it, and he looked at the bell rope and the notice below it, and the more he looked at the bell rope, the more he felt that he had seen something like it somewhere else, sometime before. What do you think the bell rope could be? Well, here's a picture of it. What do you know what it is? It might look like this. Handsome bell rope, isn't it? Said Owl. Pooh nodded. It reminds me of something, he said, but I can't think of what. Where did you get it? Asked Pooh. I just came across it in the forest. It was hanging over a bush, and I thought at first somebody lived there, so I rang it, and nothing happened. And then I rang it very loudly, and it came off in my hand. And as nobody seemed to want it, I took it home. And, Owl, said Pooh very solemnly, you made a mistake. Somebody does want it. Who? Said Owl. Eeyore, my friend. Eeyore. He was fond of it. Fond of it? Asked Owl. Attached to it, Winnie the Pooh said sadly. So with these words, he unhooked it and carried it back to Eeyore, and when Christopher Robin had nailed it on its right place once again, Eeyore frisked about in the forest, waving his tail so happily that Winnie the Pooh came over all funny and had to hurry home for a little snack of something to sustain him. And wiping his mouth half an hour afterwards, he sang to himself proudly, Who found the tail? I, said Pooh, at 1:45. Only it was 11:15, really. I found the tail. And that's the end of our story time. There's Eeyore frisking about. Well, Eeyore, did you like that story about yourself? He says yes, he did like it. All right. So the cool thing about Winnie the Pooh is that you can listen to Winnie the Pooh on Hoopla or Canopy or Overdrive and Libby. All of the books are available on audiobook or ebook if you want to read it out loud. So that was just one chapter in this whole book. So you could listen to it all you want at home. Maybe tomorrow night you can listen to another chapter. All right, it was very nice reading Winnie the Pooh with you. I'm going to gather all my friends again so we can say good night. All right. Good night, friends. Good night. Good night. Good night, Pooh. Let's put him to bed. Good night, Tigger. Good night, Eeyore. Good night, other Eeyore. And good night, Piglet. Good night, guys. Bye.